Join us as we explore some of the internet's craziest glitch stories. Story 1. I don't know if this is the most interesting story, or even the craziest thing that's happened to me, but it certainly freaked out the people involved for a while. Happened about 2 years ago around Christmas time. It was around 10:30 p.m. The girl I was dating at the time lived way out in the country in a small town. We're talking less than 2,000 people. She worked about a 45-minute drive away and didn't drive, so I picked her up when she was off. The road was simple. Although it was twisty and turny with lots of hills, you just followed the road to get there and back, only 3 turns. I picked her up and we were driving back. At one point, you have to drive through a military base. There is a really large hill that you go up first. As we were driving up the hill, I looked to my left and noticed a house with Christmas lights hung up. My first thought was that it was strange that they had lights up in the base, and then it occurred to me that there were no houses on the base, at least none visible from the road. The house was also very overgrown, to the point it would be difficult to get in the door with all the trees and vines and tall grass. It was also behind a chain-link fence. It was so close to the fence that porch was only a foot or 2 from touching the fence. The fence was probably about 6 foot high with no gate. I pointed it out to my girlfriend. She thought it was weird too. We got to the top of the hill and realized we were nowhere near the base. We ended up on a small back road miles away from the base. Discussed it with some friends when we got back, who said we must have just taken a wrong turn. The next day in the daytime, we checked out the route, and it couldn't have happened. We would have had to turn a good 5 miles early to get to that road, and it didn't have the giant hill that you go up before the base. I know that I didn't turn early. Like I said, it wasn't a complicated trip. The turn toward the base is very easy to see at night, because there's an old building on the corner with an obnoxiously bright blue light. The turn that we would have had to have made to get on that back road has no lights. I also wasn't toured or zoning out. The route was notorious for lots of deer being around who would jump out. The speed limit was low through the base, and you had to be careful of other swervers as well, due to not being able to see over the hill. You had to be alert. Still not really sure what happened there. Story 2. This happened at my and my ex's first apartment together about 7 years ago, but it still haunts me to this day. I have never been able to figure out what happened. One day at our first apartment, we went to get some groceries. While we were there, we got the usual stuff that we needed, and he pointed out that their turmeric root was on sale. We ended up getting one as we both were curious on how to cook with it / prepare it, etc. We head back with our groceries and bring everything inside, but as we're putting everything up, I noticed that we didn't put the turmeric up and can't find it. So we both went out to my car to make sure it wasn't under the seat or anything, but no sign of it. We just decided that it may have fallen at the store, or we left it there after checking out. Flash forward to a couple months later, we get home from another grocery run. I unlock the door to the apartment, and as soon as I open the door, I see some weird movement on my right, on the door frame. I opened the door all the way, and we both watched as the turmeric came out the door frame and fell onto the ground. We picked it up, and it looked exactly the same as when we bought it. To this day, I have no idea how it appeared out of the door frame. Definitely still gives me the creeps to think about. Story 3. About a month ago, I had a doctor's appointment and planned to go to the grocery store on my way home. The night before that, my husband had used my debit card to fill the car with gas, so I had to grab it out of his wallet. NBD. I put it in my wallet right away, kissed him goodbye, and hopped in the car. He saw me take the card and put it in my wallet. He even mentioned he was going to remind me to do that. When I got to my doctor's office, I took my wallet off my keychain and dropped it in the center console. I didn't have pockets, and I don't carry a purse, so I just wanted my key. This is my usual routine. Not weird, not new, not unique. I get out and lock my car like normal. The car screams because my husband's key is in the car, and you can't do the touch to lock with a key still in the car. So I use my fob and lock it. So I know I locked it. I go in and do my appointment. It's a quick one, like 10 minutes. Which was odd, but not anything I even thought twice about at first. It was a follow-up on results, and just had to be in person. I go out to my car and get in. It was an oddly hot day, so before I even shut the door, I start the car. As soon as I shut the door, something fell from above me to my lap. It was blue as it passed my face. I assumed it was a little note. My husband likes to leave me little notes I'll find at random. Maybe it was a post-it note that I hadn't seen on the visor, and my messy bun snagged it enough to knock it down when I got in. Nope. There on my lap was my debit card. The one I put in my wallet earlier. I only have one. I sat there for a moment, trying to figure out where it came from. I checked my wallet thinking maybe I grabbed my husband's debit card earlier, but there was no debit card in my wallet. My visor was down from driving earlier, so it wasn't like I weirdly stuck it there and forgot. I've never stuck anything on my visor in this car anyway, so that would be way off. I know it came from above me, because I watched it fall. My wallet was where I'd tossed it, and nothing was disturbed in my car, like my glove box wasn't rummaged and like someone broke in. I hadn't done anything different than normal that day, and I've done the same things multiple times since, like moving a card from my husband's wallet to mine, disconnecting my keys and wallet, tossing the wallet in the middle, starting the car with the door open. It hasn't happened again. I think about it every time I get in the car now. How did it get out of my wallet and above me? Why did it do that? Where was it hiding before I got in? Or did it just poof into the air and fall onto my lap? I really don't like not knowing how it happened. Story 5. Okay, so I wasn't even planning on filming anything that day. I was just outside enjoying some quiet air. You know, one of those nights where the sky just feels a little too big and a little too still. I'm not usually one to go all in on conspiracy theories or anything. Like, I don't have a poster of aliens in my room or a telescope with coordinates written on sticky notes or whatever. But that night was weird. I had stepped out onto my driveway around 9:30 p.m. It was already fully dark, but the sky wasn't completely black. It had that soft, deep blue that lingers just after sunset. I remember pulling my hoodie tighter because the air had that crisp, static-y feeling. You know what I mean? Like when the hairs on your arms kind of stand up, but there's no reason for it. I was scrolling on my phone, minding my own business, when something caught the corner of my eye. At first, I thought it was a plane. But then I looked up and, okay, you're probably going to think I'm crazy. But I swear, what I saw didn't look like anything I've ever seen in real life. It was this huge, glowing blue cloud just tearing, no barreling, across the sky. Not floating, not drifting. It was moving like it had somewhere to be. I did what anyone would do. I pulled out my phone and hit record. Now I know there are people who are going to say, oh, it's just a cloud. Chill out. But I'm telling you, this wasn't just a cloud. It had lights. Like actual lights. 2, maybe 3 glowing orbs pulsing at the top of it. Not flickering like stars or blinking like airplane lights. They were steady and bright, like headlights but in the sky. And the shape of it, that's what really got me. It looked like a spaceship. I'm not kidding. Like if you asked a 5-year-old to draw a spaceship and then somehow brought that drawing to life and shoved it into a cloud. That's what it looked like. I zoomed in on my phone, trying to focus, and in some frames, it really did look like a craft. In others, it looked more like a dense ball of smoke, like exhaust from a rocket engine or something. But here's the part that's sticking with me. It didn't look fake. It didn't have that over-edited CGI look. There weren't any obvious signs of tampering. I've seen enough bad UFO hoaxes to know when something doesn't line up. But this felt raw, real. Within a few hours, that video blew up. I woke up the next morning to thousands of notifications. By the end of the day, it had something like 12 million views. People were reposting it, slowing it down, analyzing the audio, color-correcting the footage, like full-on digital forensics. You'd think I had captured a national security breach or something. The comment section went wild. Some people said it was a weather balloon. Others said it was a rocket launch. I had a few people claiming it was a satellite re-entering the atmosphere. But then there were the ones that really made me stop and think. Someone commented, "It's the firmament." I had to Google that word. I'd heard it in passing before, but never really looked into it. Apparently, the firmament is this old-school term, like ancient cosmology, that refers to this dome of the sky. In some interpretations, especially in flat Earth circles, it's described as a literal barrier above us, a sort of glass ceiling between Earth and whatever's out there. And people were saying that what I caught on camera was something slamming into that dome, like it was trying to break through. Now, I'm not saying I believe that. I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying, I couldn't explain what I saw, and neither could anyone else. I mean, I read every comment, every thread. People were debating whether it was a matrix glitch, an alien ship, a government drone. But no one had a solid answer. Even the skeptics didn't seem that confident. They'd say, it's probably a rocket, but then follow it up with, but I've never seen one move like that before. And that's the thing. Whatever it was, it didn't move like anything I've seen in the sky. It didn't glide. It didn't arc. It shot straight across like a bullet, then vanished behind some clouds. What really stuck with me, though, was how clear it was. Like clearer than anything I've ever managed to film at night. I recorded it on an iPhone, not exactly military-grade surveillance equipment, but it came out sharp. Too sharp. You could see the glow of the lights, the texture of the cloud, even the way it moved against the stars. It didn't blur. It didn't fade. It was just there. And here's where it gets even stranger. Other than my video, no one else seems to have captured it. I checked Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, YouTube, nothing. No alternate angles, no different perspectives, no follow-up footage from nearby towns. If it was a rocket launch or a satellite re-entry, you'd think it would be visible from multiple cities. But there's nothing. Just my video. I don't know what that says about the legitimacy of what I saw. Maybe it means it wasn't real. Maybe it means it was something only visible in a very specific location, at a very specific time. Or maybe, just maybe, it wasn't supposed to be seen at all. I've had a few people DM me saying they saw something similar that night. One girl said she was driving home from work and thought she saw a blue flame in the sky, but it disappeared before she could grab her phone. Another guy said his dog started barking like mad just before the lights showed up in my video. I don't know if they're telling the truth, but it's weird. Like there are these little puzzle pieces out there, but none of them quite fit. What gets me the most? The idea that maybe, just maybe, we're seeing things we're not supposed to see. Like the veil slipped for a second. Like the simulation glitched, and I just happened to be looking up at the right moment. What if we aren't supposed to question these things? What if the reason there's no official explanation is because there isn't one we'd understand? I keep thinking about how it felt in that moment. Not just what I saw, but how I felt. My heart was pounding, not from fear, but from this overwhelming sense of awe. Like I was watching something sacred, something forbidden. I didn't want to look away, but part of me felt like I shouldn't be watching. Like I had opened a door I wasn't meant to find. And maybe that's why I haven't posted anything since. I didn't want to become the UFO girl, or the person who's always chasing weird clouds in the sky. But I also can't stop thinking about it. I've rewatched the video hundreds of times. I've zoomed in, slowed it down, flipped it, analyzed every frame, and it still doesn't make sense. So yeah, maybe it was a weather phenomenon. Maybe it was a rocket or a trick of the light. But I don't think so. I think it was something else, something we don't have the language for. And until someone can give me a better answer, I'm going to keep calling it what it felt like. A glitch. In the sky. In my camera. In reality. Whatever it was, I saw it. And now, so have you. Story 6. So I'm scrolling TikTok, just wasting time like I always do when I should be doing something productive, and I come across a video that mentions a new Mandela effect. And if you don't know what the Mandela effect is, first of all, welcome to the internet. It's when a large group of people all remember something one way, but it turns out to have never been that way. Like ever. And we all just misremembered it, supposedly. The term comes from Nelson Mandela, because a lot of people, myself included, used to think he died in prison in the 80s. Turns out he didn't. He became president of South Africa years later and lived until 2013. But for some reason, a whole generation of people swore they remembered his death being a big news event decades earlier. And now the Mandela effect has become this huge thing. People finding little inconsistencies in branding, logos, history, and even memories. And that's where Skechers comes in. So I see this video, and the girl is like, "How do you spell the shoe brand Skechers?" And my brain immediately goes, Skechers, Skechers, with A-T, like the word sketch, because that's literally what it sounds like. I didn't even hesitate. I've seen that logo a million times. I've written it on wish lists. I've seen it on store shelves. I've worn the shoes. I know how it's spelled. Or, I thought I did. Then she goes, "Nope. There's no T in Skechers." And I'm like, what? I paused the video. I rewound it. I went to Google. I typed in Skechers. And sure enough, there it was. Skechers. No T. Never had one. It's like the word sketch, but missing the thing that literally makes it sketch. I felt like I had been punched in the gut by my own childhood. I wasn't some casual observer of Skechers growing up. I wore them. I remember walking into Payless or Famous Footwear, or wherever my mom dragged me to every August, and heading straight to the Skechers section. I even had a pair I picked out specifically for our trip to Disneyland. They had the little sparkly accents, the memory foam soles, and that classic chunky S on the side. I was 10 years old, and I was living the dream. I swear, I remember looking down at that shoebox and seeing the word Skechers printed across the top, with AT plain as day. Apparently, I'm not the only one. After I posted about it, the comments started rolling in. Hundreds. Thousands. People saying the exact same thing. No way. I remember the T. That logo is burned into my brain. Someone even posted old YouTube videos of people spelling it with a T, like in sneaker haul videos from 2012. Others dug up fan art, old blog posts, even a Reddit thread from 8 years ago where someone was asking the same question. When did Skechers drop the T? And the answer? They didn't. It was never there. That's the part that makes your skin crawl, right? Not that they changed it, not that they rebranded, but that it was never spelled the way we all remember it being spelled. It's not like they modernized the logo and dropped a letter for style. It's not like they were ever Skechers in the first place. They've always been Skechers. And I know that should be the end of it. I know the logical part of my brain should say, okay, I must have just misremembered it. But the emotional part of my brain, the part that was 10 years old, lacing up those shoes before a long day in Disneyland, looking down at that logo and feeling pure joy, that part says, no, something's off. I get that memory isn't perfect. I've read enough articles, heard enough experts say that our brains aren't like hard drives. They're slippery. They reconstruct memories every time we access them. So sure, maybe I just filled in the T because it made sense. Maybe I assumed it was there because sketch is a real word and Skechers without the T isn't. But then why do so many other people remember it the same way? I'm talking thousands of people. Across different countries, different age groups, different backgrounds. All remembering the same incorrect spelling. That's not just a typo. That's not just some casual oversight. That's a collective memory, a shared experience. And when those start to glitch, that's when you start questioning everything. Because if Skechers never had a T, what else have we gotten wrong? I started going down the rabbit hole. Not just with Skechers, but with all the Mandela effects I could find. Curious George never had a tail. The Monopoly Man never had a monocle. Looney Tunes was never Tunes. It was always Tunes. What is happening? It's like reality is just slightly off. Like someone nudged the simulation a few pixels to the left, and now nothing lines up quite right. I don't know if I believe we're living in a computer-generated world or whatever, but sometimes, when stuff like this happens, I understand why people think that way. Because what's more unsettling? The idea that we're misremembering things on a massive scale. Or the idea that reality is shifting just enough that some of us notice. Anyway, I brought it up to my mom the other day. I was like, hey, how do you spell Skechers? And without missing a beat, she goes, S-K-E-T-C-H-E-R-S. Why? I showed her the logo. She stared at it for a full 10 seconds, then just said, that's not right. I told her it's never had a T. She looked genuinely disturbed. Like she didn't even say anything for a while. Just stared at the screen like she had seen a ghost. And that's how I feel too. It's not just a spelling mistake. It's like a little piece of my childhood timeline was rewritten, and now I'm the only one who remembers the original version. Except I'm not. There are thousands of us, maybe millions, all remembering a version of the past that never officially happened. Some people say it's evidence of parallel universes, that we've somehow shifted timelines, that in one universe it was spelled Skechers, and in this one it's Skechers, and we just switched over without noticing. Others say it's just proof that our brains are lazy and fill in gaps with what makes the most sense. But if that were true, wouldn't we all be misremembering different things? Why is it always the same things? The same spelling? The same logo? The same name? I don't have an answer. I don't think anyone does. All I know is, I'm never going to look at a Skechers shoebox the same way again. I keep expecting the T to show up when I blink. Like I'm going to go into a store one day and see it there clear as day, and I'll know, finally, that I wasn't crazy, that my memory wasn't broken, that reality just glitched. Until then, I guess I'll keep asking people, keep watching the videos, keep scrolling the comments. Because if nothing else, this weird little spelling mystery reminded me that I'm not alone. That maybe we all remember the world a little differently. And maybe, just maybe, that's a sign that there's more going on than we realize. So yeah, Skechers never had a T. Story 7. TikTok one night, just doing my usual, I'll go to bed at 10, and then suddenly it's 2:41 a.m. type of routine. You know how it goes. I'm watching all kinds of random stuff, dogs wearing sweaters, that one girl who cooks in the woods, people deep diving into conspiracy theories, when I come across this video from a user named Poa Podidai. First of all, iconic username, but that's beside the point. The video starts off kinda goofy, and I think it's a joke at first. This person is filming a clip of something totally normal, like their everyday life or something. And then all of a sudden, you hear an Arby's commercial in the background. You know the one, Arby's. We have the meats. Except it wasn't just the slogan. It was this specific ad for their brown sugar bacon sandwich. You can hear the voiceover say something like, "Oh, Arby's brown sugar bacon, you always know just what to say," in that deep, dramatic voice. At first, I'm like, that's funny, they must have edited that in. But then I make the mistake of opening the comments. And suddenly, the joke isn't funny anymore. Because apparently, it's not a joke. People are commenting that the exact same thing has happened to them. Multiple people, across different states, in different videos, in different apps. People are like, "Wait, I've heard this too in my videos," or, "Why is the Arby's ad haunting me?" And I'm sitting there with my mouth open like, "Excuse me? What do you mean this is happening to other people?" So obviously I go on a deep dive. I'm talking full-blown FBI mode. I start looking up every TikTok I can find with the words Arby's glitch or brown sugar bacon. And sure enough, there are more videos. So many more. One user, Peyton Reese 18, posted that she was at a wedding, like a real wedding, with people dancing and celebrating and everything. And when they got the footage back, every single video from that night had the Arby's ad audio layered over it. I wish I was kidding. She literally said it was in every clip. During the first dance. During the toasts. Over people clinking glasses and crying happy tears. Just Arby's. Brown sugar bacon. We have the meats. I can't even imagine explaining that to the bride and groom. "Oh hey, congrats on your special day. Sorry the audio's ruined, because Arby's decided to haunt your wedding video." Then there's another one from Mac That Ass Up. Yes, that's the username, and yes, I respect it, where it happens again. The same ad. The same voice. The same weirdly emotional delivery about bacon. And again, it was just there. In a totally unrelated video. Just appearing out of nowhere. At this point, I'm freaking out. Not just because it's happening to other people, but because I start thinking about my own videos. I open up my camera roll and rewatch some clips I took the day before. Nothing weird. I scroll back a few more days. Still nothing. But the paranoia has already set in. What if I start recording something totally normal and suddenly, without warning, I get interrupted by a slow, seductive voice talking about bacon? What if I'm filming my dog's birthday party and suddenly Arby's hijacks the whole thing? It sounds funny, and it is to a certain degree, but it's also just unsettling. Like, why Arby's? Why this specific ad? Why now? And it's not just TikTok. Some users are saying it's showing up in their Snapchat memories. Others report hearing the ad play while they're editing footage in CapCut or iMovie, even though it was never there when they recorded it. One person even said they were listening to a voice memo, and the Arby's ad popped in halfway through. Like what? I'm trying to come up with a logical explanation. Maybe it's a bug in the app, some weird audio overlay glitch that's pulling from cached ads. That happens, right? Maybe there was a server issue, and the ad got embedded accidentally into people's videos. That would make sense if it were just TikTok, or just Snapchat, or just one device. But across different platforms, with no pattern, that's weirder. Then the theories start. Some people say it's a viral marketing stunt. That Arby's somehow managed to slip brown sugar bacon into the collective consciousness by hacking media tools. Others think it's a tech bug that no one's owned up to yet. A few people, of course, go full glitch in the matrix and start talking about how this is proof we live in a simulation, and the bacon commercial is some kind of default overlay that the system accidentally let slip. Honestly, at this point, I'm not ruling anything out. What really made it sink in for me, though, was this one comment I saw on a video. It just said, "This isn't an ad anymore. It's a message." That gave me chills. Because when you think about it, what if it's not just a random glitch? What if this is how the universe, or whoever's running the simulation, lets us know it's breaking down? What if this Arby's ad is the equivalent of a flashing error message on your screen? Like, "Warning, system integrity compromised. Please enjoy this bacon sandwich while we reboot your timeline." I know. That sounds nuts. But so does a fast food jingle haunting people's wedding videos. And here's the part that really gets me. Arby's hasn't said a thing. You'd think by now they would have issued a statement. Something cheeky like, "We're flattered by the attention, but we're not hacking your videos yet." But there's nothing. Absolute radio silence. Which makes it even weirder. Because if this was a marketing stunt, wouldn't they want to take credit for it? Or maybe they can't. Maybe they don't know it's happening. Or maybe they do, and they're waiting. Watching. Okay, that's creepy. I just creeped myself out. Anyway, fast forward to now, and this whole thing has become kind of a running joke among my friends. We'll be on FaceTime and someone will randomly whisper, brown sugar bacon, and we all lose it. It's like our little inside joke with the Matrix. Our bacon-flavored glitch. But at the same time, I can't stop thinking about it, because this wasn't just one viral video. This was dozens, hundreds, people from all over the world, all hearing the same thing in places it never should have been. And no one has a good explanation. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's a tech error, a marketing stunt gone rogue, or evidence that our reality is held together with duct tape and fast food jingles. But I do know this. Story 8. I fell down one of the weirdest rabbit holes of all time the other night, and it all started with SpongeBob. Yeah, Sponge freaking Bob SquarePants. I was just minding my own business, scrolling through TikTok like I always do before bed, when this video by Jackie Rooney popped up. And now I can't stop thinking about it. The video was captioned something like, "Do you remember the 2005 SpongeBob TV hijack?" And I was like, no, that would have been huge, right? I mean, if someone had hijacked a Nickelodeon broadcast back in the day, wouldn't that be common knowledge? Wouldn't there be news reports, interviews, maybe even a documentary on Netflix by now? But the video kept playing, and I couldn't look away. It starts off with this old SpongeBob episode. Gary takes a bath, I think. Totally normal at first. SpongeBob's doing his usual thing, being his little overenthusiastic self, trying to get Gary into the tub. But then out of nowhere, the screen glitches. Like actual static, VHS-style interference. It cuts to black. And then something else takes over. What follows is this weird, kind of poetic message that shows up in white text on a black background. It says, "We will be friends once more, undeterred by all we've been through, and regardless of all that separated us." And honestly, it kind of feels like it's trying to be deep, but also creepy. Then it hits you with "all that I am longing for is an old friend." And I'm like, okay, what is happening here? Then it gets worse. The next scene is this shot of a house, just the outside, really plain. Kind of suburban and unremarkable. But then there's more text. "See you soon, Jerry." Excuse me? Now, I don't know anyone named Jerry, but something about that felt way too personal. Like you're watching this weird hijacked broadcast, and suddenly it addresses someone by name. That's the kind of thing that makes your stomach drop. Then it gets even weirder. The screen flashes again, and now the message is directed at two people, Nicole and Anthony. It says, "I'm sorry. I miss you. I want to hear your funny laugh again. I want to stop hearing your screaming at night when I see you at the edge of my bed." And I paused the video right there. Like full-on paused it, took a deep breath, and stared at my ceiling for a second because what? I mean, that's not just weird. That's chilling. I want to stop hearing your screaming at night when I see you at the edge of my bed. Who writes that? Who thinks that's okay to broadcast? And more importantly, who is this message for? And it doesn't end there. After that, you see two people, well, kind of. They're wearing oversized shirts with the letters N and A on them, standing for Nicole and Anthony, I guess. They just sort of materialize out of nowhere. They giggle, and then they walk off screen like it's nothing. And the whole thing ends with a thank you, and this weird, distorted image of SpongeBob, frozen on screen like he's staring directly at you. I swear, I watched this whole thing with my jaw basically on the floor. I was like, there's no way this happened. There's no way Nickelodeon aired this in 2005 and no one remembers it. So I did what I always do when something freaks me out. I started Googling. Nothing. No record of a 2005 hijack. No news reports, no articles, not even a Reddit thread from back in the day. Which only made it weirder, because the video felt so real. The glitching, the fonts, the way the VHS-style distortion looked, it was all too convincing to be dismissed outright. But then I looked into the account that had posted it, and that's when I realized it wasn't real. The whole thing was part of a fictional analog horror series. Those creepy lo-fi videos that pretend to be real broadcasts or old footage, but are actually scripted and created to mess with your brain. And honestly, props to the creator because it worked. It messed with my brain. Hard. But here's the thing. Even after I knew it was fake, it still didn't stop bothering me. Because it wasn't just the realism of the glitch or the way the characters were addressed by name. It was the concept. The idea that someone could hijack a broadcast and beam a message into people's homes. A message that's not meant for everyone. Just for a few people. Or maybe just for you. It reminded me of the Max Headroom incident, which I'd read about before. That was a real TV hijacking that happened in 1987, when some guy in a Max Headroom mask interrupted a broadcast in Chicago. It was deeply disturbing, completely unexplained, and they never caught the person who did it. That kind of thing lives in the back of your mind. Because we trust our screens, right? We trust that when we turn on the TV, we're going to see what we're supposed to see, not something else. And that's what made this fake SpongeBob hijack so effective. It took something safe, something nostalgic, something I grew up with, and turned it into a nightmare. It took the comfort of childhood and warped it into something sinister. And even though I know it's not real, it still lingers. I think that's why analog horror is so effective right now. It taps into this fear we all have, deep down, that maybe we're not in control. That maybe the things we rely on, our phones, our TVs, our memories, can betray us in an instant. And the worst part, we don't even know when it's happening. So yeah, no, there wasn't a real 2005 SpongeBob hijacking. But after watching that video, I kind of wish there was. Not because I want it to be true, but because at least then I'd have an explanation. At least then I wouldn't have to sit here wondering why a fake video about a fake broadcast still makes me feel so uneasy. And maybe that's the real horror. Not the glitch, not the message, but the idea that it could happen. That it almost feels familiar, even though it shouldn't. Like a dream you had as a kid but can't quite remember. Like something just outside your reach. Anyway, I'm going to go rewatch SpongeBob now. The real one. The one without the creepy messages or ghostly children in oversized shirts. The one where the scariest thing is a jellyfish with an attitude. Because honestly, I need a little bit of Bikini Bottom right now. Just to feel safe again.